It is not always about the resources we have at our disposal, but rather the unwavering commitment, perseverance, dedication, and hard work to make the most of what we achieve. This is exactly the story of our today's guest, a young boy from Marshall, Goa, who grew up in the most difficult conditions, proves and inspires us all. He continued his schooling and would often study under the streetlight. His remarkable achievements in research gained him immense recognition and has been awarded honorary doctorates by 51 universities from India and abroad. He is the recipient of the highest civilian awards in India, the Padma Shri, the Padma Bhushan, and the Padma Vibushan. He was honored with Fellow of the Royal Society of UK, one of the highest and prestigious awards offered to the eminent scientist. Please join me in welcoming this eminent, distinguished, and legendary personality, a global thought leader, Shri Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, one of the brightest gems India has produced. So thank you for being on the podcast.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you.
So should we begin?
Yeah, please.
So today's competitive landscape heavily relies on innovation. Business leaders are talking about it. The startup community is talking about disruptive innovation, sustaining innovation. So my first question to you is, what is it? Why it is important at a national and corporate level, specifically for the startup ecosystem?
Yes, this is a very important question. I am very passionate about innovation. And I remember in my J.R.D. Tata Corporate Leadership Award lecture, I had ended by saying that the I in industry must stand for innovation.
Yeah.
I in every institution must stand for innovation. I in every individual must stand for innovation. Why am I saying that? Because innovation is all about doing things differently to make a difference. All right? The great advances that you see in the world today, starting with the bullock cart and ending up with high performance aircrafts. This is all human ingenuity, because there was this particular desire to do it differently so they can move faster, they can move better, and so on and so forth. So innovation is central to progress.
Right.
Innovation actually leads to competitiveness, but equally importantly, innovation can lead to inclusion.
Right.
Innovation can help the poor by making high technology work for the poor, giving them access to things that they would not have ever had.
Yeah.
And innovation is not just technological innovation, by the way. Okay, innovation comes in different forms. For instance, there is a business model innovation, which you change. Now, for example, if you look at Ola, it's a business model innovation. You don't have to own a car.
Correct.
The car is at your disposal when you want.
Yeah.
All right. So ownership gives away to access. That is, or Airbnb.
Yes.
All right, and so on. The second is system delivery innovation. You produce a product, but how do you make sure that it reaches the consumer or the customer,
the audience,
the fastest,
Yeah.
so as to say. And you can see now, you lift your phone, just put in a message, and the food comes to your home.
Right.
Basically, that's a system delivery innovation. Then there is a workflow innovation.
Yes.
Workflow innovation is what? You distribute the work in such a way that you can acquire speed as well as you can create the product at a fraction of the cost that you would have otherwise had. Like McDonald's, if you see the McDonald's product, quality-wise is exactly the same. But they have an assembly line approach where they distribute the work. Or look at, for example, Arvind Eye Care. They do cataract surgery, not costing $3,000 but $30, 100 times cheaper. But their quality is better than some of the best hospitals in the world. And how do they do that? Because they distribute the work. The most expensive job is not left to ordinary worker, but ordinary worker does a repetitive job. and the final skill job is done by the surgeon.
Right.
So there's a distribution of work.
Yeah.
Or the same matter for, you can say, the breakthroughs that we had on heart surgery, for example, Naran Rudalia, its quality being as good as the best in the world. So that is workflow innovation, distributing the work, all right, depending on the complexity. Then there is policy level innovation, because technology and policy will always go together. You can have great technologies, but taking it to the people require policy.
Correct.
For example, we have seen Aadhaar, okay, and then we have JAM, Jan Dhan Yojana.
Correct.
All right. Then we had mobile and the Aadhaar card.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a combination of technological innovation, workflow innovation, system delivery innovation, most importantly, policy innovation by the government, and you can see that India has changed.
Yeah.
So the first point I want to make is that as far as innovation is concerned, it comes in different forms, like what I explained, and also, of course, there is a disruptive innovation, which is game changing. You are able to do things much faster than you ever did. What took 50 years, you can do it in 5 years, that kind of a thing. Or you can change the entire market, so as to say.
Right.
Clayton Christensen, when he talked about disruptive innovation, he was talking in terms of not serving the same market, but creating new markets. That is disruptive innovation, game changing. But on the other hand, there is incremental innovation, where you move just 10% each time, 5% improvement. Like iPhones, for example, iPhone 6, iPhone 7, iPhone 8, iPhone 16. There is a gradual change.
Correct.
You understand? So that is the incremental innovation. And finally, for startups, it is important because startups is all about innovation to deliver value to the customer at the lowest cost with the highest quality. And that you cannot do without innovation. So innovation is the key. That's why I said. And mind you, minds on the margin are not marginal minds. Everyone is someone. So our perception that innovation is done only in corporates is wrong. There's a grassroots innovation. I've been chairman of National Innovation Foundation, and Professor Anil Gupta has been the vice chairman, but he's the driving force. What we do is that minds on the margin are not marginal minds. A school dropout, a farmer, a housewife can also do an innovation. And if you go to our website, you will find a few thousands of such innovation that are done by common man. All right, without any financial support from the government or anything. So I think there is a multifaceted aspect for innovation.
So my second question was, how do you see relevance in innovation? How do you measure it?
It's a very important question. And like anything else, there is an input and then there is an output.
Correct.
Output means impact.
Right.
Input is in terms of ideas, in terms of money, in terms of the systems that you create around, the ecosystem, and so on and so forth. So the best indicator is Global Innovation Index. They have fine-tuned it, and I like that very much. I've been on their advisory board right from the time it started, as a matter of fact. And I'm very happy to say that India has moved from 82 a few years ago in the rank to now 38. So that's a good climb, but we are way behind China. China is already 12. So what does it comprise? It's a good question. I think first is the institution, the ecosystem. Right, because it is like, idea is like a seed, okay? But that has to be fertile, so that finally you don't eat the seed, you eat the fruit. And therefore, how do you grow from the seed to the tree? That is the entire ideas to impact journey. That is innovation. So therefore, you have to put it in a fertile soil, because if it is infertile, it will not grow. You have to supply water, you have to supply nutrients, and when it grows, becomes a plantlet, you have to protect it, so as to say, and so on and so forth. You know, so there is this particular analogy. So what does it comprise? I think first is institutions. There is to be political environment, political stability, government effectiveness, regulatory quality. Then there is a regulatory environment, the rule of law, regulatory quality, ease of resolving insolvency and so on. Then there is a business environment, ease of starting a business, ease of paying taxes, ease of protecting minority investors and so on and so forth. This ecosystem is very important because innovation will fail if some of these things do not work.
Yeah.
Then of course most important is ideas are born here. So therefore human capital and research. So education, expenditure on education as a percentage of GDP, school enrollment rates, pupil to teacher ratios, and then the tertiary education, of course, and research and development. How much money does the government spend as a percentage of GDP on R&D? You know, then there is the infrastructure, like for example, information communication technology. What is the internet penetration, for example, becomes very important. There is a general infrastructure in terms of electricity output, logistics performance, GDP per unit of energy, and so on. And then there is the ecological sustainability, of course. Then there is the market sophistication, because what you are talking about is converting an idea into a marketable product.
Yeah.
So you have to look at market seriously. You can't create a product which market doesn't accept, or create conditions by which market doesn't function. So you have to give credit, access to loans. There has to be investment freedom, trade credit availability, and there is a trade and competition. What are the tariff rates, ease of trading across borders. Then there is a business sophistication that comes through knowledge workers. You know, you have to train people to get employment in knowledge-intensive sectors. Like today we talk about artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And that is going to drive innovation in a big way. But do you have people who are trained in machine learning and so on and so forth? Then university-industry collaboration is extremely important, because university is the hotbed of generation of new ideas. But in order to make an impact, there has to be a collaboration, because finally it is industry which will create products. So unless the two are linked, it cannot basically move. Then venture capital deals.
Yes.
Yeah. And then knowledge absorption, high-tech imports, FDI inflows, and so on and so forth. Now, these are the kind of inputs that you have. But the output is equally sort of important. First is knowledge creation. How do you judge it? You publish research papers, you publish patents, you create utility models. That is one impact. Then you have created new products. Are they high-tech? Are you able to export them? So high-tech exports becomes one, labor productivity growth and so on. And then knowledge diffusion becomes important. Knowledge-intensive services exports, in which India did well, as you know, we are where we are because of that. And then there are creative outputs. It's not always the technology.
Correct.
Trademark applications, industrial design certificates, creative goods of services, online creativity, mobile app development, video outlets, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So I think you can see there is the input and then there is a output. So the Global Innovation Index actually makes use of all this in order to measure the innovation intensity. Yeah.
Okay, great. So again, that leads to the next question. We see a lot of conflict worldwide. You know, the Ukraine-Russia war, the Middle East crisis. How does this conflict affect innovation at a national level as well as at the organization level?
I think that's an excellent question. It does affect hugely. I mean, if you look at Ukraine-Russia war, what happened was there was a disruption in energy markets, especially natural gas supply from Russia.
Right.
And that forced countries to invest in renewable energy. Because what does renewable energy require? Sun is shining, water is there, land is there. You put nutrients and you can create, for example, compressed biogas.
Correct.
You don't require any import from Russia in that particular case. Europe, as soon as they saw that Russian dependence is going to be harmful, they increased the R&D expenditure in green hydrogen and battery technologies. And if you see Russia itself, they had sanctions.
Yes.
And therefore, they increased investment in defense, artificial intelligence, agriculture, technology in order to become self-reliant. Look at the other conflict, Hamas-Israel conflict. And that actually showed the importance of drones. As you know, they were very heavily used. Cyber security, missile defense systems, such as Iron Dome and so on and so forth. So both of these got sort of affected themselves, but also the rest of the world, because the rest of the world depends upon what they do. Displacement of talent, for example, the Ukrainian IT sector, which was a global outsourcing hub, 14% of the workforce left Ukraine because of the war. Similarly, defense budgets rose, and civilian R&D saw cuts, whether like healthcare and so on and so forth. And then the skilled researchers and engineers from conflict regions, they often sort of migrate. So there is a regional brain drain. Then there is a supply chain disruption. Like for example, if you take Ukraine-Russia war, Ukraine was a major supplier of neon gas, which is critical for semiconductors. And they faced production halts contributing to the global chip shortage. Can you just imagine what impact it has? Similarly, fertilizer and grain exports from Ukraine and Russia, they were key to global agriculture. They were disrupted, pushing nations to invest in agriculture biotech to enhance food security. After all, every nation wants to be food secure. It doesn't want to depend upon Ukraine. And if you look at Hamas-Israel conflict, the instability in the Middle East raised oil prices and pressuring nations to accelerate innovation in alternative solutions. Because we say, thank you very much. We'll have to find an alternative, and R&D investment started there. Then there has been organization level sort of this thing, like I said, global company, they reallocated their funds more on security infrastructure, cyber security. Startups, for example, companies in conflict zones like Ukraine, they pivoted toward defense tech and cyber security. They shifted their emphasis. Then there is the issue of market and trade barriers. Like companies lose access to liquidity markets due to sanctions, like Western businesses withdrawing from Russia. They got out. Or increased production costs due to disrupted supply chains, particularly for rare earth materials, which are very, very important, and energy inputs. And then there is a sort of forced innovation, because the energy crisis came and drove breakthroughs in renewable energy storage systems. There are specific examples of impact. For example, semiconductor shortage. The global chip supply, already fragile due to COVID-19, you remember that, worsened with Ukraine's reduced neon gas production, which supplies 70% of world's semiconductor grade. If it comes from one country, you can just imagine. Then agriculture, I talked about, defense tech growth, I talked about. And there is also societal and long-term impact. For example, increased artificial intelligence usage for defense, surveillance and logistics management, you know. So for example, Russia and Ukraine started to employ AI to analyze satellite images and manage logistics. And then there was a shift in global trade networks, because countries reshoring or nearshoring supply chains, they started doing that to reduce dependence on conflict regions. We want to be away from those conflict regions. So your question is excellent. Many people have not thought about what impact it has had, and I'm glad you gave me an opportunity to explain it in great detail.
So you just spoke about R&D, how different countries are venturing into R&D. I'm quoting a report which came out some time back, which says India's R&D expenditure as a percentage of GDP stands at just 0.65%, which is significantly lower than countries like South Korea, which is 4.8%, and China, which is 2.4%, which affects India's global competitiveness. So the question is, what are the gaps that hinders competitiveness? How do we think we can aim to bridge this gap and see tangible results going forward?
No, that's an excellent question, and I would answer it in some detail. See, I have been a member of Science Advisory Committee to the Prime Minister for almost 30 years, right from Rajiv Gandhi's time to Dr. Manmohan Singh. And I remember it was the last meeting of Science Advisory Committee, which was held at 7 Racecourse Road. And I remember we were at 0.7% at that time. I'm talking about 1989.
89, that was long back.
Yeah. So 11 plus 24, 35 years ago, it was 0.7%. And Rajiv Gandhi said that we must increase it to 2%.
Right.
And I remember T.N. Seshan was the cabinet secretary. He was sitting next to him. He said, "Sir, we don't have money." And I remember Rajiv Gandhi, what he said. He said, "Seshanji, R&D is very important for India.
True.
Our growth, our security depends on that. So I will set aside 2% for R&D and the rest the country can have." That was his vision. Then I remember in year 2000, I was the president of Indian Science Congress that was held in Pune. And Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji did the inauguration. And he made a statement that we must increase it to 2%. And then 2015, I think, it was our current Honorable Prime Minister, in Mumbai in Science Congress. He said we must raise it to 2%. So it doesn't have to do with Congress, BJP and all that. Every government had said we must increase it to 2%. Why is it that it has, and remember, in the last 10 years we have come down from 0.7% to 0.65%. We are the only nation which has come down. And as you rightly said, our spend is less than that of the rest of the world.
China.
Now herein lies the crux. The crux is that when you talk about Korea and 4% plus, 70% of it, 80% of it comes from private sector.
True.
When you talk about US, 70 to 80% come from private sector.
Yes.
When you talk about China, 70 to 80% comes from private sector. In our case, the ratios are exactly reverse. The private sector investments have been very low, and they are no more than, I would say, 1/3. The ratio should be 2/3, 1/3. Our ratios are 1/3, 2/3.
Right.
Yeah. So unless industry invests more, you can't increase it. That is one point. Secondly, what is the motivation for industry to invest more? I think it is the fear of death. That means if you don't innovate, you will die. If you don't create, like I've been on the Tata Motors board, they have to keep on creating new models in order to survive in the market. The same model will not sell after an year or so. So it is that competition that matters. And if you just see, India began liberalization and opening up only in 1991. We are a closed economy, so we didn't have to compete. We could do import substitution, copy, reverse engineer and survive. So competition came in 1991. And after that, the changes started sort of taking place. But are we there where we should be? We are not. Automobile sector has moved. Biotech sector has moved, basically. These two sectors have moved. But in other sectors, there is not much of an investment, because in these two sectors, there is a great deal of competition. Competition drives.
How about healthcare? How about healthcare?
Russia is in the middle somewhere. I mean, they are sort of low. And the basic issue is that how do you incentivize them? So I remember in 1995, when I became the Director General of CSR, I was also Secretary to Government of India and Department of Scientific Industrial Research. which used to look at industrial research. And I remember all the benefits had stopped at that time. You know, Mr. VP Singh was then the Prime Minister, stopped the incentives. He was the Finance Minister at that time. Because somebody had misused because we used to give weighted tax deduction, accelerated depreciation allowance, investment allowance and all that. That was stopped. And then I remember meeting Dr. Manmohan Singh, was then the finance minister, and I explained to him, when you say 2% weighted tax deduction, you are losing some income. The government is losing some income. But I showed to him data that actually because of that, the type of investment that industry does is several folds more. It from them to sort of do that, you know, you require that. And I remember we started with 100% weighted tax deduction. And I sold the idea to him because at that time, IT and BT, the knowledge industry, was coming. So I said, sir, don't do it for everything, do it for knowledge industry, IT, BT. And then gradually 150%, and then gradually to 200%. And I told him at a point in time that, sir, everything is a knowledge industry, including sort of auto. Okay. Unfortunately, all this has been taken away now. And there is a cry from industry. The principal scientific advisor had called a meeting on the other day, and there is a cry from industry that they should be restored. Now, the Revenue Department has a legitimate complaint that some of this money is misused and all that, etc. But I think we must create systems by which it is not misused. And today in the digital world, it is possible to do blockchain and other instruments, etc. For that, you don't throw away the baby with bathwater.
Absolutely.
So as to say. So it is extremely important. The government, to its credit, I must say, I must applaud them. They have announced this 1 lakh crore fund by which they will support industry, actually. And currently, the challenge is that when you look at technology, there are different levels. For a technology readiness level. Technology readiness level 1 is at a point when we are just proving the concept. Then 2, then 3. As we move on, then you have to do pilot plants and then commercial feedback and the rest of it. And TRL 9 is the one where there is a commercializable technology which market can sort of accept. So in this journey, the national laboratories, universities can go up to TRL 1, 2, 3. Industry wants TRL 9. So there is a big gap in between. And the government very wisely is saying that we'll fund that particular gap. You know, and that money has to be also soft money. So government is saying we'll give it sort of almost interest free because they are talking in terms of large number of years by which we have to sort of return it. So these are good steps. And I hope that gets fructified. So I think we have to build this ecosystem. The best way of doing is public-private partnership.
True.
For example, you know, on 28 February, which is the Science Day last year, our Honorable Prime Minister launched a ferry. And the ferry was powered by hydrogen fuel cell, proton exchange membrane, hydrogen fuel cell. Now, these technologies are not available for love or for money. But who developed it? Right here, there is National Chemical Laboratory in Pune. Right here, there is KPIT Technologies.
KPIT Technology.
Okay. And these, they came together to create this PM. Now, what is the impact of this? The impact of this will be that we can, because when you have hydrogen fuel cell, there is no emission. Only water comes out, non-polluting. And therefore, this has the power now of greening all the waterways in India. Not only that, we can export this technology. But how did this come about? It came about by public-private partnership.
True.
So I had created this program called NIMITLI, New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative. Now in leadership, what happens is that you are not copying, you are not reverse engineering, you are thinking ahead. So at a time when the program started, fuel cells were not talked about at all. There were no markets. So industry, Indian industry had always worked where technology was known so that they could copy, and markets were known so that they could sell.
Right.
We moved in an area where technologies were not known and markets were not established.
Right.
That was risk taking, and that I must give credit to the government that they took that particular risk, and we gave industry money at a very, very low interest rate. Basically, I had proposed 0%, but it went to 3%. 3% was also low because interest rates were very high at that time. That is how this program Fuel Cell started. And today we are world leaders in that because the technology is superior to the best and costs almost 1/3 of what the rest of the world will have.
Right.
And we can green our waterways and the waterways of the whole world. But risk taking and government coming in and partnering with industry, and industry puts its own money. By the way, it was not KPIT, every money was given to her, every rupee was given to her. You know, so we need such interesting models for public-private partnership.
Yeah. The next question is, there was an article in newspaper way back in 1997 which read The Warriors of Haldigati. A turmeric story narrated by Mr. N. Suresh, who had written this story. How one man single-handedly fought a patent war over turmeric. Can you please elaborate on this?
Yeah, that was very interesting. You know what happened, I must give credit to my mother for that, and you will see how she was responsible for that. So what happened was that when I was the director of MCL, I remember in summer days I was sitting, and myself, my wife, and my mother and my son Ameya, and suddenly a bird came and fell. Okay, we were sitting in our terrace, and its wing was broken. And my mother ran down and brought haldi and made a paste and applied it to it. And unfortunately, the bird died after a couple of hours. And we had all fallen in love with him. We cried. I still remember that. Then I asked my mother, I said, how did you know that what applies for a man can apply for a bird?
Right.
And she gave a very profound answer. She says, for me, all living beings are the same.
Wow.
Whether it is a tree, whether it is a fish, whether it is a bird, whatever is living, they are all the same.
Yeah.
That was very profound, and that was stuck in my mind. And then I was Director General of CSR, and I was reading Times of India. And N. Suresh, that you talked about, he gave this news item that the wound healing properties of turmeric, there's a patent that the US has taken. So I said, my God, my mother knew about it, because patent has to have 3 basic criteria. Novelty, non-obviousness, and utility.
Right.
There's no novelty because it is old knowledge.
It is old knowledge, yeah.
Okay. It is useful, of
Everybody
course.
uses
it. Yeah. So I decided to fight it. Now, in the evening, I was giving Hussein Zahir Memorial Oration in National Physical Laboratory. And I declared publicly that I'm going to fight it. Now, I had done a mistake. The reason is that I was Director General of CSR, and therefore I had all the freedom in the world. But as Secretary to Government of India, there was no freedom for me unless I took minister permission. But the only permission I took was from my heart. I always think from here. I say, ye galat hai. We have to fight it. And I announced it. Now, of course, hell broke loose because I had broken the protocol. But the country trusted me, and within 18 months, we won it by giving the, let us say, evidence that this was all in our Sanskrit shlokas and Urdu literature and Indian medical journals and so on. Then I got a break. There is World Intellectual Property Organization, 176 nations. And they made me the chairman of SCIT, Standing Committee on Information Technology. And by which time this wrong patent was dismissed. So I said in my opening address that knowledge generated by Stanford, Caltech, Oxford, Cambridge is knowledge. And knowledge generated by my predecessors by working in laboratories of life is not knowledge. That's wrong. Because they didn't recognize traditional knowledge as knowledge at all.
Correct.
You know? And they used to follow what is called the International Patent Classification. and there were subclasses. And on this, there was no subclass at all because they considered it. I said no. Okay. And then we had a 5-member committee: India, China, Europe, and so on, Latin America, and so on, which actually decided that we'll include sort of traditional knowledge. And there were subgroups that were created on traditional knowledge. And I must give credit to my late friend, Mr. V.K. Gupta, who created these systems, basically, by which it could be incorporated. So, this happened for a simple reason that I went to America. I visited US Patent Office in Washington, and by which time this wrong patent was given. So what I did was that I told them this is not the only wrong patent. There are hundreds of wrong patents. And I took 10 samples. I took Sanskrit Shloka, I took its English translation, and I took the patent that they had given. And I said, this patent says that this is novel new. Look at this English translation. It has been done by my predecessors centuries ago. Second one, third one, fourth one I showed to them. And then they took me to their patent search system. And they say, when your turmeric patent came, we went to our computer, turmeric, wound healing, powder. What came on the screen? Nothing came on the screen. Nothing came. Because it was not in our database at all. Basically.
That's how they...
So, it was either in your own ancient books or your memory, as a tradition. We did not have access to any one of them. So, I came back and we had this Indian system of medicine, very enlightened secretary, Sheilaji. I worked with her and created a team of 100 workers. It had Sanskrit scholars, it had IT experts, IP experts, it had scientists. And we created almost 3 crore worth pages of TKDL. In fact, on 24th, we are celebrating the silver jubilee of creation of TKDL. Now, how it helped? It helped because then we had agreement with 17 countries, patent offices, saying that any patent that comes on traditional knowledge, first you will go to TKDL and see. So what happens? Any claim that they have, immediately they are caught. And that has had a nice effect now. So first, wrong patents are not given. Secondly, because now the companies know that they will be caught. It's like a red herring. They don't want to apply at all. So it has had a massive impact, I would say. But most importantly, I'm not interested in just protecting, oh, this is mine, you can't take it. This knowledge should be available so that people can base it on that and create sort of new product. Because this is experiential learning. Can you scientifically validate it? That's why I proposed this golden triangle, and Ayush department started using it. Traditional medicine, modern science, bringing them together, and you can create new drugs like we have done now.
So is it available for the normal public?
Yes. Now the government
has given. Great. So again, we spoke about the IP, the change that you brought in. The question here is, intellectual property protection is obviously a critical factor for fostering innovation. It's the backbone, as it promotes secure environment for the product or service. Now that we are into the artificial intelligence age, determining whether a particular IT innovation can be challenging, especially when similar algorithms exist. There could be a situation where 2 products might have a similar algorithm. Now, what challenges do you foresee in drafting a AI patent application in that concept?
I think that's again an excellent question. I wish there was more discussion on this in India. Because what happens is, there is something that the machine creates, and there is something that the man creates. And the patents are given for the inventiveness of a human. You get the point? And how do you distinguish between the two? Becomes very, very difficult. You understand? On the other day, I remember Chandrakant Dada Patil, our education minister, had come here, sitting in the boardroom.
Okay.
And I was telling him about the importance of AI in education. And then I took my ChatGPT and said, Chandrakant Dada Patil, Maharashtra's education minister, please construct a 10-line poem on him.
Oh, okay.
In Marathi.
In Marathi.
4 seconds, the entire poem came.
Oh, wow.
And I read it out to him. So he said, oh, this looks like a magic. But I said, now here is a challenge. Supposing you give a home exercise to a student that construct a poem, how would you know whether ChatGPT has created it or that student has created it?
Student has created. True.
So whether it is created by a machine or a man. I think that is where the fundamental questions are. But I will answer your question in great detail. When I saw your question, I thought about it. I think the first is the algorithm similarity, because many AI innovations build on existing frameworks like neural network, deep learning architecture, reinforcement learning models. So determining whether a particular AI invention is novel or merely an extension of prior art can be challenging. Because it has to be truly novel. Remember what I said,
right.
Novelty, non-obviousness and utility. To give an example, a new model architecture for natural language processing, like GPT-based models, might appear similar to existing ones, making it difficult to argue about its uniqueness. So determining uniqueness is one point. The second is defining inventiveness itself, because AI innovations often involve optimizing existing algorithms or applying them in new domains. Patent offices struggle to assess whether these optimizations meet the inventiveness or non-obviousness criteria. So, for example, an AI model for medical diagnostics may be an application of generic AI but tailored for healthcare data. You know, so its novelty lies in training data set or application rather than the core algorithm itself. Then there is a ethical and legal ambiguity. For example, AI-generated inventions challenge traditional concepts of inventorship. Who is the inventor when AI independently generates a solution? You get the point? The question lacks clear answers in global patent laws. So, for example, the case of Dabus, which is an AI system credited with creating two inventions, a fractal beverage container and a neural flame device. That sparked a global debate. There was a big controversy, and the patent applications were filed in multiple jurisdictions with mixed outcomes. For example, it was rejected in the US, UK and Europe due to lack of human penetration, but it was accepted in South Africa and Australia, where patent laws are more flexible.
Right.
So there is still ambiguity
in that area.
In different patent offices. Then different patent offices have found different ways, like for example USPTO, that requires a human inventor for patent applications. AI tools are considered as aids in innovation but not inventors themselves. You know, it's like a pilot and a co-pilot. AI is a co-pilot. But pilot controls sort of everything.
Right.
So in 2020, the USPTO clarified that while AI-assisted innovations are patentable, AI cannot be listed as an inventor.
Okay.
Machine cannot be, because the patent will be always granted to the man and not the machine.
Okay.
Okay.
So
focus is on whether the human innovator made creative contributions while working. So it is not anymore going to be man versus machine. It is going to be man and machine, working together. For example, in the Dabus case, the USPTO rejected the application because no human inventor was listed. Only machine was listed. Right. So emphasizing the necessity of human intellectual contribution. You know, intellectual property rights are given to human beings, not to machine. Then if you see European Patent Office, that emphasizes human involvement in the inventive process and defines clear boundaries. Like the invention must solve a technical problem and exhibit a technical effect beyond abstract data processing. And AI and machine learning models are evaluated based on their contribution to a technical field, such as improving image recognition or autonomous vehicles, etc. If you look at WIPO, about which I referred to, World
Yes,
Intellectual
yes.
Property Organization, they focus on harmonizing AI patent practice globally. You don't get patent in US, but in Australia.
Australia.
That's not on.
Okay.
The inventiveness, etc., those criteria, that must be a global system. So it is actually trying to do a lot for emphasizing transparency and fairness. And in 2022, WIPO initiated consultations on AI inventorship to gather global consensus. So that is still going on. Harmonization is going on. And different patent offices sort of are using different, I will not go into that. But I think the solution to address the challenge first would be clarity in definition.
Right.
Clearly define the role of AI in invention process, include detailed description of how AI was used, including data sets, training processes, and specific technical improvements. The second is explainability and transparency. Like provide a detailed breakdown of the AI system functioning, highlighting the inventive step, and focus on technical contribution rather than abstract AI capabilities. Technical contribution. And then global harmonization, develop uniform standards for evaluating AI-generated inventions, for example, WIPO's consultations. And then there have to be policy evolutions where adapt patent laws to acknowledge AI's role while ensuring that human inventors retain responsibility to creative contributions. So that is a detailed answer. And I particularly wanted to give it because this is not even being discussed here.
Right. Yeah. And referring about a concept called as Gandhian engineering. Okay. Can you elaborate on the concept of Gandhian engineering and how it can be applied to modern research and development?
Yeah, that's a very important question. In fact, day before yesterday, I was in Mumbai. There was a Pan IIT big sort of congress with some 1,500 alumni attending.
Okay.
And I spoke on Gandhian engineering there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it goes like this. In 2008, I was honored by the Australian Academy.
Okay.
It used to be called ATSE. And I happened to be the first one to have been honored.
Okay.
So I said, and I said I could see 100 others who could have got it, but they give it to me. That means they don't know enough about India.
Right.
So I said I will tell them something Indian. So I began by saying that the greatest gift of India in the 20th century to the rest of the world was Gandhi. And greatest gift in 21st century will be Gandhian engineering. And the title was Gandhian engineering, more from less for more. Now how did that more from less for more come? Gandhiji had said there is enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. What it meant is that if your resources are exhaustible, don't exhaust them. Use them very carefully to create more and more by using less and less.
Okay.
So that become more from less. Besides that, he had said that the fruits of research must reach everyone, not just selected few. That means it became more from less for more and more people, not less and less people. Get it? So Gandhian engineering became more from less for more. How does it differ from other types of engineering? The first, so this is MLM.
Right.
MLM was proposed for the first time because what we have is MML and LLM. I'll explain. What is MML? More from more for less and less people. So you have one model of car, better, more expensive, better, more expensive, better, more expensive. iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 10. They keep on becoming expensive and less people can use it.
Right.
So more from more for less and less people. That's what the world has been doing.
Right.
But that is creating a problem because that is increasing the inequality.
Right.
Less and less people having access. The second is LLM. less from less for more and more people. That means jugaad. Take any knockdown product like jugaad vehicle. You assemble something and maximum number of accidents have taken place because of
in
jugaad.
that area.
So there is no concern for environmental sustainability, aesthetics, sustainability, nothing. Okay? Is MML desirable for India? No, because they are more expensive, we can't. Is LLM desirable? No, because people's aspirations are high. They don't want to have restriction.
Yeah.
MLM, getting more from less from more. That became Gandhi engineering.
Oh, okay.
And then C.K. Prahlad, the great thinker, and I wrote a paper in Harvard Business Review. And we called it Innovation's Holy Grail, MLM. Holy Grail because it's an impossible looking dream.
Correct.
And then we showed how India has done 10x, 10 times better but 10 times cheaper.
Right.
Like hepatitis B vaccine, 40 times cheaper, but high quality.
Right.
Because 40% of UNICEF supply is by India.
Right.
Without high quality, they would not take it. Correct?
Absolutely.
And then I showed a film, by the way, day before yesterday. That film is like this. There is this Jaipur foot.
Oh, yeah, Jaipur
Yeah,
food.
$28.
Right.
Okay. So I show MML first. MML is more from more for less and less people. It's a $10,000 foot,
Yeah.
which we can't afford. $2 per day is the income of poor.
That's
So it
very
will take
expensive.
5,000 days to even gather $10,000.
Right.
So MML is not on. The second is the wooden foot. Okay, very cheap, but no functionality.
No functionality.
You are dragging your foot and no dignity, nothing. And third was Jaipur foot. And I showed a film where somebody wearing a Jaipur foot climbs on the tree, jumps from the tree, and runs a kilometer in 4 minutes 30 seconds.
Oh, okay, wow. That's amazing.
Then this audience of 1,500, I said, please raise your hands. How many of you can run a kilometer in 4 minutes 30 seconds? You know how many hands went up?
0,
5.
5.
So I told them 5 out of 1,500 can run as fast as he, but 1,495 cannot. That means he's beating 99.5% of you.
True.
Okay? That is affordable excellence. That is access equality despite income inequality. That is more from less for more. So in fact, I am writing a book now on Innovation's Holy Grail, more from less for more.
Okay.
How this can be done. Because it is all about making high technology work for the poor.
Right.
Okay? So in my mother's name, I have created Anjani Mashelkar Foundation.
Right.
And there, actually, MLM principles are used.
Okay.
For example, breast cancer. You have to do mammography.
Right.
Very expensive. Radiation, very damaging. And plus a poor cannot go there. So iBreast is a device which you just move around your breast and you know whether the cancer is there or not.
Yeah, I saw one outside.
Exactly, exactly. That one.
Yeah.
Now I was in Goa last week, met the chief minister there. They already done screening of 1 lakh women
Oh,
and found
okay.
34 positive. And then they are doing 1.5 lakh. And so on. UP is going to do 5 lakh. This is now in 20 countries, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And Lancet has. So this is more from less for more.
True.
Because US FDA approval is there for this.
Okay.
So that's why it is in 20 countries. So I think there are many examples. And if you go to the website of Anjani Mashelkar Foundation, you will find 14 winners who belong to this category of Gandhi engineering.
Right. Right.
More from less for more.
Yeah, I did, visit that website.
Yeah.
We'll definitely come back, talk about Anjali Mashelkar Foundation because as we, progress on the interview. Next, probably I had an opportunity to meet a person who and, both of you know each other since a very long time. And the person had a great success story, from his earlier days to what he is now. And he admires you as a person a lot. And you are probably his role model. So I'm going to show a message. He's given a very good message for you.
A few years back, about 2 years back, during the G20, there was a board on the airport which had luminaries from Pune. And in that board, on one side we had Mashelkar, and on the other side it was my picture on the other side. So I was a little overawed by the whole thing. Now, one of these days, somebody told Dr. Mashelkar that both of us are on that particular photo. And he reached out to me saying, "Hey, do you know that?" I said, "Yeah, I do know that our photo is on the airport." He was quite excited about it. So he said, "Let's meet sometime." So he came over to my office. We had a nice conversation. And then together we went to the airport and took a photo, just me standing next to my picture and he standing next to his picture. And I have that memorable photo with me, which I thought was quite unique because, to have somebody like him very enthusiastic about this and coming with me to the airport and taking a photo with both of us, that was meaning a lifetime memory for me. And I was very grateful that he took the initiative and agreed to come with me for that photo.
I'm a great admirer of Anand. What he has been able to do. He is a technopreneur in the real sense.
Absolutely.
But also, he has this innovation here, compassion here, and passion here.
True.
Because the public good that he does, very few people do
Absolutely.
like.
A very, very humble person.
Very humble person.
And I was really, I was glad that I could meet him and get some
Sure.
bites from him.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with the next, question. I was doing the research. I was doing some research on, before we started this interview, and I came across a story where during your earlier academic achievements, when you ranked top in the board exams, following which you were awarded monthly scholarships from Tata Trust, that which enabled you to pursue your studies in chemical engineering. So I understand that there are several people who are in touch with you or who have interacted with you, had profound impact on the way they work and otherwise. My question is, what was the level of impact you had on yourself when you had that situation, and would you intend to bring such impact on others as well? What are you doing on that front?
Yes, I always say that it doesn't matter where you are born, to whom you are born, under what circumstances you are born. Your future is in your hands. You can shape it, as simple as that. So I'm a great believer in that. Because if you just take a sort of look at what has happened, the highest scientific honor that an engineering scientist can get is Fellowship of Royal Society, FRS, which is a 365-year-old organization. And great people like Newton and a whole range of Einstein and others have sort of got that. And in engineering science, there have been only 3 from India. One is my guru, Professor M.M. Sharma. Second is Professor Raghunath Mashelkar. And third is myself. And Raghunath Mashelkar, unfortunately, is no more. So only 2 in 365 years. Now, when I was studying Newton's laws of motion, I never thought that I'll get FRS where you get to sign in the same book that Newton has signed. And I'm the only one from Maharashtra who has signed in that book, by the way.
It's really amazing.
Okay. So, I was born in a very poor family. My mother brought me to Mumbai in search of a job. She was not literate, she could barely read or write, and struggled. 2 meals a day was a challenge. I studied under Streetlights, and the breakthrough came when I actually stood 11th among 135,000 students, the SSC as it used to be called in Maharashtra State. And then I got Tata Scholarship of 60 rupees per month. Now that 60 rupees per month is because of which you are interviewing me today, because I was about to drop out from the school and work because I couldn't see my mother struggling. Now, the interesting part is just a month ago, I got, as you know, you do PhD when you do research and you get
Right.
a PhD degree. But then there are universities who want to honor you. And although you have not done research in the universities, they actually honor you by giving you an honorary doctorate.
Okay.
So you become an alumnus. So I have received these honorary doctorates from all over the world, from US, from UK, from South Africa, from Australia. So recently I got my 49th honorary doctorate.
Okay.
And then somebody told me, Vikas Deshmukh, my friend, wrote to me that you have broken the national record that was held by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam.
Oh, that is amazing.
So that is 49. And then I got 50 and 51. So I hold 51 honorary doctorates today. But take a contrast. How do I believe that? So my mother's struggle was such that every day she had to search for a new job.
True.
Okay, to survive. So some stitching, something or the other. And one day she had gone to Prarthana Samaj. There is this Congress house where they used to give in the morning some employment. Go and do this, go and do this. So she stood in the queue. And when her turn came, she was asked, are you third standard pass? Now she could have lied because there is no certificate for third standard. But she was honest. She said, I didn't go to school at all. So where is the question of third standard? So they declined the job to her.
Oh.
And while returning, she said, why have I been insulted? Because I didn't have education. So I'm going to make sure that my son had the highest education. I don't know what it is. Then I became bachelor degree holder in chemical engineering. I had a job. She said, no, you will not do the job. You will do PhD. Because there is something called PhD.
Right.
When I finished PhD, I said, this is all over. She said, no, there is a postdoctoral research. And I remember when I got my 25th honorary doctorate, I had gone, this was September 2006, and said, I got my 25th honorary doctorate. Then you know what she said? Now I'm happy. Now I can go.
Oh.
And
okay.
within 2 months, she passed away, 17 November. So when I got my 50th honorary doctorate at the hands of Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh in Delhi, the Academy of Scientific Innovative Research gave me that. In my speech, I said that I wish she was there today.
True.
Because she was there when I got the 25th. She is not there when I got the 50th. But I said, she's no more, but she's everywhere. And she's looking at me.
Yeah.
And perhaps she has a smile on her face, saying that because I was not third standard pass, I did not get a job.
Right.
And here is my son who now holds the national record of the highest honorary doctorates. You
Yeah.
understand? So I think this is the basic issue, that in life, finally, hard work, perseverance, integrity, commitment, focus, that matters. It just doesn't come easily.
True.
I would put it this way.
How were you as a child? I mean, how was your childhood?
I was very weak.
Okay.
So I couldn't play physical sports.
Okay.
So I was good at carom and things of that kind, where you didn't have to do much. But as a child, I was an avid reader. Anything that will come in my hand, I will read. So in Marathi, because I studied in Marathi, I went to municipal school.
Right.
So I would read Nath Madhav, then Visa Khandekar and Harinarayan Phadke and all those great people. I was public libraries were sort of very important at that time. You know, unfortunately, they are closing down now.
Correct. Yeah.
And I remember in holidays, 6 to 8 hours I used to be in the public libraries. Like in Thakurdwar, there was this Mumbai Marathi
Mumbai
Sahitya
Marathi
Sangha.
Sangha.
I used to go there. Then Wilson College, there was a library and so on. And then I was very fond of reading new books because libraries have old books. So there was this, in Girgaon, there was this majestic bookstall where Kothawade brothers used to run it. So I would go to them and say, look, can I borrow this book? I'll sit the footpath on the corner and sort of read it and return it to you without spoiling. And that is how I read. I was very fond of Rahasya Katha, detective
stories.
Yeah. And I remember going to Baburao Arnalkar, who he had those characters.
He's written about 1500 books.
1500 books. Dhananjay, Chotu, and Zunzar, and Kala Pahad, and all that. And I remember going to him and said, I read every novel of yours. So he wrote, in his own handwriting in Marathi, Abhyas Sambhalun Rahasya Katha Vasavya.
Oh.
You make sure that don't leave your studies while you're reading these detective novels, etc. I used to write, actually, right from, I was in the 6th standard.
Okay.
I remember there was a magazine called Manthan.
Manthan.
And there was this competition, and the winner would get ek anka ek rupya. It means one sort of that magazine, one copy of the magazine, and 1 rupee. It used to be given. And I remember winning the competition there. I remember writing sort of in many magazines, Amrut, Bal Mitra, and so on. And many times what used to happen was because there were handwritten manuscripts, and I would go to the magazine editorial sort of office, and I can't say this is my manuscript. So I would say, Raghunath Mashelkar has given this.
Oh.
So writing, reading, and also I would say the development in a very young age was very important. We had this elocution competition.
Yes.
And I remember I was trained that at this, Joshi sir used to train us. When you say this, your hand must be like this, then must be like this, and so on and so forth. And then I remember, so I had mugged up the entire speech. And then I found that I was some 4th and 5th, and all my points were covered. So I didn't want to repeat it at all. So I gave a completely new speech.
Oh.
And did not look at my teacher because he would have fired me. You know, and I won the sort of competition. So I think the point is, in our young age, there was plenty. You know, nowadays young people don't read.
Right.
They have the mobile, they do either like this or like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no reading.
We must get them back to that.
Yeah. So,
so that is my answer about how was I as a child.
Yeah. I mean, I have a follow-up question on that. I'll show you one, I'm going to show you one picture that probably I got from Do you remember this?
Oh, of course. I stood 11th among 135,000 students, and Balasaheb Desai was the education minister.
Yeah.
He gave me the award. I remember that.
So, what were you thinking during that time? I mean, what did you think of?
I'll tell you, I went to a poor school called Union High School. You know, because my mother could not gather the money that was required for admission. 21 rupees.
Correct.
Because I was walking barefoot, we required shoes. Then sports fees, other fees, 21 rupees.
Right.
And she took 21 days to get them. And by that time, admission to all schools were closed, top schools, like Vibushan High School and so on. And so therefore, I went to Union High School. But that poor school had rich teachers. And some of them had great sort of influence on me. All right. And from that school, nobody had stood in the board. The top 30 used to be in the board. They have stopped it for some reason now. And I remember standing 11th among 135,000 students. And I did not expect to get the rank at all. When the Navakar office was next to me, but I was fast asleep. I did not go to the office. And then somebody came and shouted, You have stood the 11th.
11th.
But that changed my life because that was a turning point. That is how I got the Tata Scholarship.
Tata Scholarship, yeah.
So that was very important, I would say, in my life. But at that time, I must also say, like today, students get 100 plus marks percentage-wise. Not in our time. I had 81.43%.
Oh, wow.
Arun Dravid got 81.50%. And 9 and 10 were clubbed. So by 0.07%, half a mark, had I got 1 mark, I would have been 8th.
Oh.
And I got 11th. And the top, Agashe, was just 83.6. That was all.
That was all.
Not like what
Not
we
like
have
what
today.
we have today. Yeah. So you mentioned about your mother and the struggle that she went through. You must have seen her struggle. What were you thinking when she was going through that struggle? Did you have any sense of thought that when you saw your mother struggling for various reasons?
Yeah, well, I wanted to help her, and that's why after SSC, I was going to leave school or education, and I was going to just work.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, I had decided that I will take up a job during the day, and there was this ERA night school. I would study in the ERA night school. But life changed after I stood 11th.
Yes.
Basically. No, she was, I'll tell you, there's a huge influence that she had on me. First, she set the highest standards for me. For example, in mathematics, I would always get 100. Occasionally, I'll get 97. She'll make me sit. I was happy with 97. She was unhappy with 3 marks that I lost. Where did you lose them?
Where did you lose?
She would ask me, you know. Then high ethical standards, like she said, never sort of lost. And also this Anjani Mashelkar Foundation that I created was also very interesting. So what used to happen was, I was the DG of CSR, Director General, and I used to work in Delhi. My office was in Delhi, manning 40 laboratories. And I never left research, by the way. So I used to come during weekend and be in NCL, my laboratory. And I have this habit of always carrying some cash, you know, like I'm doing now, in hand.
Okay.
So I would, whatever I had, I would give it to her while taking the flight back to Delhi. We never asked her what she did with the money. And when she left for her heavenly abode on 17 November 2006, my daughter Shruti was organizing her saris, and she said, all that money there, with a little note in Marathi, that don't forget our roots and do something who do science for the poor. That is where Anjani Mashelkar Foundation came about, making high technology work for the poor. So what happens is that is something special about her, because what we are doing today, cancer detection or all sorts of things through Anjani Mashelkar Foundation, it is saving lives, actually. So even when she is not there, her act of directing me that you must sort of help them is helping save
other people.
So many lives.
So many lives.
So it is like a timeless inspirator.
Right.
She was like a timeless inspirator. She lives even today.
Great, great. Starting from zero, just from getting a thought, how can one bring innovation and create an enterprise and further create a legacy? This is typically targeted towards the startup community, where somebody has a thought or an idea. How does one create a journey from creating an idea to an enterprise, to a startup, and convert it into an enterprise and create a legacy?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. See, ideas to impact is a big journey.
Yeah.
And therefore, there are a few attributes that you must have. The very first attribute is that you will always fail before you succeed. Nobody has succeeded at the first attempt. So I always tell young people that interpret fail as FAIL, first attempt in learning.
Oh, okay.
Your last guru is your last mistake, as long as you learn from it.
True.
Okay. I think that's the first message I like to give. Secondly, you must you fall in love with your technology, but it is the customer and consumer that matters, and therefore you have to look at customer first. Everything else sort of afterwards.
Correct.
Third is in order to get assured success, there are certain attributes. You know, I have this book, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, where the chapter 3 gives that. And that assured matrix for assured success, startups should look at it. It has the following 7 elements. The first is affordability. Second is scalability.
Yeah.
Third is sustainability.
Sustainability.
Fourth is user friendliness, universality.
Right.
The next one is rapid, because you have to move from mind to
fast.
marketplace very fast, otherwise
Correct.
you will refrain. The next one is excellence in terms of technology. You can't be doing jugaad or something. And the last one is distinctive. There must be a USP. It cannot be me too.
True.
All right, and therefore intellectual property becomes important, and so on and so forth. You know, breakthroughs. And I've given examples. Now the assured framework that I've talked about is used by startups. In fact, in incubators, there are people who wear these T-shirts saying, "Are you sure you are assured?" And you may be assured today, but you will not be assured tomorrow. Because the matrix,
Yeah.
you know, as you remember, for example, Napster was free download of music.
Correct.
It had millions of users. Does it exist today? It doesn't.
No.
Because if you look at the assured matrix, you'll find in sustainability there are 4 factors. The very first factor is business model.
Business model.
Robust business model, where you can't depend on government subsidies. Governments change, they go. So are you having a strong system? The second is, if you are not green, it will not work. So environment. Third is society. Will society accept your great power? And fourth is regulator. Because regulation change and your product can go out of.
Right.
So Napster, what happened? It was a free download of music. But the people who had created the music objected and said, you can't have free download. And they vanished.
Right.
You know. So I think these are the important parameters they should be looking at.
Yeah. Okay, so so the next question is, recently during the National Startup Day event, which happened about a week back, our Honorable Chief Minister Mr. Devendra Fadnavis shared his plans for Maharashtra Innovation City, which is going to be a 100-acre innovation city in Maharashtra. He also shared Maharashtra draft startup policy offering electricity tariff and stamp duty waivers as well as patent cost reimbursements, which looks to be very, very positive step towards the startup ecosystem. How do you look at this initiative? What impact do you foresee in the startup ecosystem?
Oh yeah. No, I think he's a great visionary, and this announcement I think is wonderful for Maharashtra. As far as Maharashtrian innovation is concerned, the Maharashtra State Innovation Society was created. Initially, it was a Maharashtra State Innovation Council.
Yes.
And when I was the member of Prime Minister's National Innovation Council, we had this idea that every state should have a council. So the idea was born originally in Dr. Manmohan Singh's time. And then Maharashtra State created that. And I remember Mr. Prithviraj Chauhan was the Chief Minister. And he did something unusual because normally all other states said that some chief secretary or somebody like that will be the chairman. Some went for scientists. But Prithviraj Chauhan in his wisdom said, Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar will be the co-chairman and the other co-chairman will be a minister of skill development, entrepreneurship or any other department which is relevant. So those ministers keep on changing, I am permanent.
Oh, okay.
Right from the beginning. That was innovation itself.
Right.
Okay. The second point was that when we were working with the Maharashtra State Innovation Council, we found that it had restrictions in terms of hiring people, government salaries, the rest of it. And therefore, in Devendraji's time, we converted it into a Maharashtra State Innovation Society.
Oh, okay.
Society.
Society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is extremely sort of important because it gave us a lot of freedom to do that. So I must give him credit for that.
Right.
The next credit I like to give him is when in 2018 we created Maharashtra State startup policy. This startup policy was among the boldest in India for a simple reason. I remember that when we had these meetings, I said Sachin Tendulkar hits a century in Ranji Trophy at the age of 15. But then you say, where is your 10-year experience? And so you can't play in test.
Oh, yeah.
We don't do that for cricketers. Why should we be doing that for startups? Because every startup, by definition, is a startup. If you put your normal tendering process and say 10-year experience, no startup will qualify. So I said we should do away with startup this tendering process. Number two, we created a particular matrix and say if he passes that matrix, then he should be given a contract. And this is kind of a work contract. And when we celebrate this sort of annual startup event, we have this big competition and then we give 15 lakh. And that's a lot for a startup, you know. And that work order is given without following sort of this thing. So I must give credit to Devendraji for supporting that. And I'll give you an example. There was this Sagar Defense as a startup. He had created drones which could walk on liquid surface and clean. So PCMC, Pune Chinched Municipal Corporation, as you know, what happens after Ganesh Chaturthi?
Correct.
What happens to the rivers?
Right.
So he was given a contract for cleaning these sort of river, and then because of that, he got contracts in Mumbai and other cities. And then he grew so rapidly that he has become today one of the big surveillance equipment supplier to the army.
Army, yeah.
So if those doors were not open for him,
that would not happen.
This would not happen. And that Maharashtra has done. And I can give you many examples. So stepwise, I'm telling you about the progress.
Yeah.
And Devendraji has himself personally taken interest in this. And I think this idea of Innovation City is a great idea. You do require such support system because in 2003, I was the chairman of the biotechnology policy. You know, Vilasrao Deshmukh was the chief minister. And in Hinjewadi, we created this biotech hub, so as to say. And we gave all these concessions, by the way, about the duty, the availability of infrastructure, this, that, and the other, etc. So Maharashtra has had this good tradition of making it easy for the startups. So I recently met him. Day before yesterday, we were together on the same platform, basically, and I congratulated him on this. Yeah.
Great. So you often talk about leapfrogging to pole vaulting, which is the concept which speaks about your book, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting. You know, can you please elaborate on this concept?
Yeah. See, this particular book, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, has a subtitle that is very important.
Yes.
And the subtitle, as you can see, is Creating the Magic of Radical Yet Sustainable Transformation.
Right.
So how did this come about? It's very interesting. See, I've been on the board of Reliance for 17 years.
Right.
And Mukesh Bhai had created this Reliance Innovation Council, which I was chairing for 10 years. And we had Nobel laureate like John Maryland, Nobel laureate like Bob Grubbs from Caltech, where people like George Whitesides. We had C.K. Prahlad, for example, as a member. And invariably we used to have some discussion after the council meetings all over. And Mukesh Bhai, I remember, mentioned, he said, Doc, we must leapfrog to something. I don't remember now. So I asked Mukesh Bhai, do you know why the frog leaps? So he said, I don't know. I said, he leaps because he's afraid of the predator. He's afraid of the enemy.
Yeah.
So he jumps a few feet and again a few feet. Do you want to do that because you are afraid of your competitor and jump a few feet? Or do you want to pole vault? The size of the pole is the size of your
Huge.
aspiration.
Yeah.
He loved it. That is the birth of this book.
Okay.
Number one. Number two was that this very concept of pole vault, is a unique one.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you see Geo, in 2017, India was 156 among 231 nations in mobile data consumption. 156, almost at the bottom. Came Geo, and within 1 year, they did not leapfrog from 156 to 150 or 100. They pole vaulted to number 1 position. Because Mukesh Bhai did the magic of 4 rupees per GB and voice free. Right? You can see that is a pole vault.
Yeah.
Today we talk about digital public infrastructure, but for Mukesh Bhai this would not have been possible.
True.
Okay, 1/3 of India is sort of Geo today. And its impact you can quite clearly see in diverse fields, basically. You talk about payments today.
Yes.
In 2022, I remember the figures, that 44% of the mobile data transactions were done by one country. And we were the most unbanked country.
Yes.
From most unbanked country to most digitally banked country. That's a pole vault.
That is a pole vault.
You get the point. So that is the thrust of this particular book. This won the Tata Lit Live Business Book of the Year award.
Yes.
The moment sort of it came.
I was fortunate to get it, just got 2-3 days back.
Yeah.
I was reading and I came across one 347 framework. 347 framework.
Yeah.
So,
so that is where Ravi and I got together.
Yes.
Ravi was already thinking about energy, environment and employment as being the most important thing that India should be working on. So that was 3. And the 4 came up because we said there are 4 factors that matter, and that is STEP. STEP is society, technology, economics and policy. All these 4 must go hand in hand. That was Ravi's contribution.
Okay.
Where you can see that you can bring technology, but if it's not accepted by the society, nothing happens. If it does not make economic sense, nothing happens. And if it is not backed up by policy, nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
So this is the 3-4-7. 7 is assured.
Assured.
Affordability, scalability, sustainability, user friendliness, rapidity, excellence in technology and distinctiveness. So 3-4-7. That's what this book is.
Great. So in fact, I had the opportunity to, briefly speak with Mr. Ravi Pandit and get his views on this book.
So we started working together right since the concept. And so, this book is about radical yet sustainable transformation. That's the byline of the book. Each word matters. So how do you pick up the challenges which can be converted into opportunities? What is it that you will need at a single company level? What is it that you will need at a large societal level? That is a span that this works on. his enormous experience was very valuable, you know. And so he brought in the science technology part. I talked about it more from a social transformation perspective, and it was extremely good. It was a very good collaborative effort.
And he mentioned that the experience writing as a co-writer was, absolutely.
Oh, we learned from each other.
Yeah.
I learned so much from him.
Yeah.
And Mita Kabra, who actually helped us in writing the book, I must acknowledge her also.
Okay.
Because she had an uncanny ability. Whatever we wanted to put, she put it in a better way.
Okay.
But most importantly, she challenged us.
Yeah.
She, and that was very important. You need to have an in-house critic.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. What was your process? I mean, how much time did you take to write this?
This was about 2 years.
2 years. Okay. Okay. Do you want to talk about this new book that you've come up with?
This has become national bestseller, by the way.
Yeah.
The title of this book is Experiment.
Experiment, yeah.
That word you will not find in dictionary. We coined it.
Right. Okay.
Experiment means exponential improvement.
Okay.
Not 10%, but tenfold.
Tenfold.
Okay. Subtitle is very important. Exponential improvement through converging parallels. Now, what is converging parallels?
Mm-hmm.
This is a contradiction because parallel lines never meet. Okay? But if you make them meet, you can get breakthroughs.
Right.
So what we are saying here is that, and in fact, it is driven by sort of a very interesting, Heraclitus had said, the unexpected connection is more powerful than the one that is obvious.
Okay.
So what we are talking about is things which don't have anything common. You bring them together, you get a breakthrough. So I'll give an example. Henry Ford started manufacturing cars. For assembly of one car, he used to take 12 hours. That was brought down to 1.5 hours. Almost tenfold reduction.
Tenfold reduction.
And it reduced the cost by factor of 10. Now you might feel that he must have got the expertise from some auto expert, etc. No. He had gone to an animal slaughterhouse. And what he found was, it was a meat packaging plant, that the workers do not go to the cut part. The cut part came by a conveyor belt to the worker, and the worker was standing where he was, and things were passing by.
Okay.
That is how we got the assembly line idea.
Okay. So fixing.
And the rest is history. That assembly line improved his efficiency and everything multifold. Now, what is common between a car manufacturing and animal slaughterhouse? Nothing.
Nothing.
But bringing them together can create a difference.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Similarly, we have given a number of examples. One of them is F1 Formula race. And there the car breaks down, and few seconds
They fix
you
it.
can start. So a toothpaste manufacturing company said that when I change my brand A to brand B in my line, it takes 2 hours. Why should it take 2 hours? Why can't I use some of the principles that these guys use? An amazing result. We show here that they started producing 2 million more tubes without any extra expenditure by using those techniques. Now, what is common between Formula 1 race car and a toothpaste manufacturing? Nothing.
Nothing. No connection.
So the basic idea in this particular book is really start connecting the unconnected, lateral thinking of the highest order, and you can make breakthroughs.
Right.
So I'm very happy that this has become national bestseller.
Yeah, national bestseller. In fact, both.
Yeah, both of them.
Both,
Both of them.
in
I'm
fact,
very proud. And
leapfrogging to
both
pole
of them think about exponentials.
Yeah.
Leapfrogging to pole vaulting. That's what India has to do.
True.
Bedu gudi te Hanuman gudi.
Barobar.
That's the issue really. We can't crawl, we can't go there.
Yeah, great. So again, I mean, coming back to innovation, I saw a tagline on the Reliance Innovation Council website which says, "Innovation as a way of life" is the tagline which says. You chaired the Reliance Innovation Council during which Reliance Innovation Leadership Center was set up. What was the objective and the agenda for setting up the RILC, what innovation-led growth or impact have you seen in the past few years in the industry or country at large?
Yeah. So if you see innovation, Reliance, their motto right from Dhirubhai's time was growth is life. Okay. What we said is that innovation is a way of life. That means it is not only for the R&D department. For every employee of Reliance, they should make innovation as a way of life. Okay. So if you combine the two, you can say innovation-led growth. Growth is life. Innovation is a way of life. Combine the two, innovation-led growth.
Led growth.
But Reliance is not interested in incremental growth. They want exponential growth, which they have.
Correct.
You know, and therefore it can't be incremental innovation-led exponential growth. They have to have game-changing, radical innovation, disruptive innovation-led exponential growth. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is how it follows.
Correct.
And they have done that. I just give you an example of the pole vault that they have done. And in everything that they do, there is a kind of a innovation. And I mentioned to you, technological innovation, business model innovation, workflow innovation, system delivery innovation, you know, I mean, whole range, process innovation, etc. In every walk of life, you will see innovation. And we created, the other point was, of course, when COVID came, when the economic shock came,
2007.
So at that time, I remember Mukesh Bhai has this habit of supposing you want to economize on expenditure on electricity, and you have different, you will switch some light off, such light off here. He puts the main switch off. You get the point? So he said that the main switch off, all of us have to work together. And he created this, what you might like to call as a mantra of war on waste. Waste is W-A-S-T, waste. Extreme efficiency. And exponential value creation, 1, 2, 3. So that became his mantra, and the entire organization got aligned to it. And we created what is called as Mission Kurukshetra, where every employee can contribute. Kurukshetra was the war between good and evil. So what is good is innovation.
Yes.
What is bad is imitation. Okay?
Imitation,
so we must all become innovative. And then every idea is respected. Everyone is someone. Minds on the margin are not marginal minds. So can you imagine the entire organization was galvanized?
Right.
All right. And then individual ideas used to come, projects used to get formed, speedily approved, huge economic benefit, and so on and so forth. It became a kind of a model. In fact, the way we handled it, basically the process that we followed itself has been patented by that. There was a kind of a innovation. So that was at one end. And at the other end was this leapfrogging to pole vaulting. We created a program called Beyonders.
Beyonders, okay.
Young people who can think beyond the realm of possibility. All right.
Yeah.
So at one end, leadership, Beyonders, and the other one, democratization. So all this is run by this Reliance Innovation Leadership Center. Only 6. In fact, when Mukesh Bhai inaugurated this, he said, "Oh, not 660, but he's a 10x guy." I said, "No. I will get work of 60 people done by 6 people here. And we are not changed. This is now 14 years.
Right.
Basically. So you are sitting in the center, which is the nerve center for Reliance."
Great, great. So, we are almost coming to a closing session. A couple of more questions and then probably we are done. Several young entrepreneurs would be watching this episode. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting his or her own enterprise?
Yeah, I would say these are Mashelkar mantras that I often repeat. So there are 5 Mashelkar mantras. The very first one is aspirations are your possibilities.
Right.
Keep them high. If you aim at Everest, at least you'll end up at Kanchenjunga. But if you aim at Kanchenjunga, you will end up at Hanuman Tekadi.
Right.
All right, so keep them high. Number
Yeah.
one. Number 2 is that you can do anything but not everything. So focus is extremely important, what you want to do. The third is purpose, perseverance and passion. Perseverance. Winners never quit, quitters never win. But you have to have passion, and most importantly, you have to have a big purpose. Not only for yourself, but for the society, and the nation. And as I said, fail is first attempt in learning, and your last mistake is your best guru. Never repeat it, but learn from it. And we have seen that. Like, for example, we saw that in ISRO launch, you know,
Yeah.
after the failure, they learned everything, and the next one became successful.
Yeah.
So that is. The next one is that you keep on knocking on the doors and they don't open. Create your own doors. I'll give you a personal example. When I came in 1976, India was a poor country. I was trained in a subject called rheology and non-Newtonian fluid mechanics. And I needed equipment called Weisenberg rheogoniometer,
Okay.
modularity. No foreign exchange. So we required DGTD clearance, not manufactured in India certificate. Would take 2 years to get that. All right. So that door was not opening. I created my own door.
Right.
I said, what equipment God has given me? This. What can I do with it? And I went into mathematical modeling and simulation.
No.
And I was a consultant for a polyester manufacturing company. And I told them that I'll give you an insight on what is happening in the reactors by modeling and simulation, which you can use for productivity improvement, but the papers that come out by the new knowledge will be published. They agreed. Okay. So in 19, remember after I started work in 1977, normally the highest science prize is Bhatnagar Prize, which is given to people who are less than 75-year-old. Okay? 45-year-old. And it's the most prestigious prize that you can get. For this work of modeling and simulation, 77 I started the work, in 82 I got the Bhatnagar Prize.
Oh, okay.
You get the point?
Yes.
Now you can imagine I was just waiting for that equipment. What would happen? All right?
True.
So open your own doors. And the last one is from my guru, Professor C.N.R. Rao. There is no limit to human endurance. There is no limit to human achievement. There is no limit to human imagination, excepting the limit you put on yourself. All right? To give an example, when I became FRS, and like I said, only 3 engineering scientists in 365 years. So there is something in it.
True.
So I called him. You know what was his response? Not bad. So I was very disappointed. Then US National Academy of Science, formed in 1760 by Benjamin Franklin and George Washington. And only 7 Indians have become fellows.
Yeah.
Okay? I was the 7th. So I called him. Not bad.
Still not bad.
Then I said, well, the 3rd one and 7th one doesn't work. Then US National Academy of Inventors, I was the first one to be elected. US National Academy of Inventors. So I said that first is going to work. And now he is going to say great. So I called him again. And you know what he said? Not bad. Then I got upset. I said, sir, what do I have to do to impress you?
Impressive.
And then what he said is the last message for the young people that you are talking about. He said, you are climbing on a ladder of excellence which has no limit.
No limit.
It's a limitless ladder,
True.
excepting the limit you put on yourself. So therefore my message, I convert it in the other way. Every day you have to say, my best is yet to come.
True.
So get up in the morning, you have to say, my best is yet to come, and today is the day it will come. You can do it when you are 18 or 80. But even at 80, you have to say, my best is yet to come, and today is the day. And you can just imagine, if all our young people do that every day in the morning,
True.
what difference it will
Absolutely.
make?
Absolutely.
Simple. So these are my 5
Absolutely
Mashelkar
great. I
mantras.
mean, I'm personally going to remember this for my life. So I think it was great speaking with you today. We look forward to more such conversation at different levels.
Yeah, sure. I didn't realize we started at 11. It's 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
So 2 hours.
2 hours.
I didn't realize when the
same
time.
here. It was great speaking with you.
Thank you.